So what was the rationale for this project? Well, this is a new service and it's not something that's really routinely offered elsewhere. So we wanted to evaluate it and we wanted to make sure that we were providing really good quality information and support to the women we're looking after. One of the criteria for a good screening programme is that the screening test itself must be acceptable to the population it's designed to be used in. And we wanted to test how acceptable this screening test was. So we did this using a self-completed paper survey, which was distributed to 100 pregnant women between July and September 2014. So that's roughly 4 months after screening had been introduced. It was completely voluntary, confidential, and we didn't acquire any patient identifiable information. It was given to women at the time of their screening test, so at roughly 35 weeks gestation, in both Northwick Park and Central Middlesex antenatal clinics. Now, we have a very diverse population within the Trust, lots of different languages and ethnicities. So we made sure that our survey was reviewed by the Plain English group, who made sure that it was clear. And at this time, at this particular appointment, all the women who don't have English as a first language or require an interpreter will have one with them. And we asked the interpreters to assist in implementing the survey as well. And we know from the result that we were capturing women who didn't have English as a first language as well. This is just what the survey looked like. You don't need to look at it in much detail, but essentially it was mainly tick box questions, but we had some free text as well to kind of explore the reasons behind our responses. So in terms of the results, we got 98% completed surveys. Most of them were fully complete. One of them was only half complete, but I've included all the usable answers in the analysis. So all the percentages I'm going to present are of 98 responses, and they're all mutually exclusive unless I've stated otherwise. So what we were really interested in knowing was whether women were aware of Group B strep. And what you can see from this is that 57% said that they hadn't heard of Group B strep before today. And this is women who are really quite late on in their pregnancy, so 35 weeks as well. And this actually correlates with the data that you see in other studies. So awareness of Group B strep in women of childbearing age, but also specifically in pregnant women, is really very low. We wanted to assess how good our screening leaflet was. We found that 80% received a screening leaflet in a language they understand, which is a relatively good achievement given the number of languages we deal with. 83% felt it was least fairly or very easy to understand. And what I think is important is that the vast majority felt that this leaflet gave them enough information to make a decision about screening. Because if you're going to implement something such as this with screening, it has to be practical. You can't have to have a sit-down conversation with every woman for half an hour about the pros and cons of screening and things like that. And we were finding that this leaflet was giving people the information they needed. And of those who had other questions, the majority had them answered by staff at that point. We wanted to know that if a woman had wanted to find out more about Group B strep, where would she be going? And I think encouragingly here, the majority of people said that they go to their midwife or obstetrician, so good, reliable sources of information. But I want to draw your attention to the other peak here, which is what we classed as internet general sources. Now, when we talked about the internet, we divide it into Internet NHS Choices website, Internet Parents Forums, and then just Internet General. Now, I feel this is really important because if you go and do a Google search of Group B strep, you'll get some good websites, so you'll get NHS Choices, you'll get Group B strep support website, but you will also get some really terrifying stories because that's what makes it into the press. And it's really important that we appreciate that our women, having been told about Group B strep, might be then going and getting some really scary information. And we need to be able to reassure them that actually in the majority of cases, even if you are colonised, your baby will be okay. And actually it can be a positive thing to know that you're colonised because then something can be done about it as well. We had a free text question saying, well, generally, how did you feel about having the test? A majority of people said, oh, it was easy. It was a bit uncomfortable, and quite a few people commented it was a bit awkward, a bit embarrassing, but no major real issues. As Grace said, we give people a choice as to whether or not they do the swabs themselves or have a midwife to do it. And this choice was really well appreciated by the women. You can see a high proportion of people wanted to do it themselves, but 22% preferred the midwife did it, and others said that they didn't mind too much. So I think it's really important that we continue to give this choice because it's something that women appreciate. We then asked, would you have it again? And I think encouragingly 88% said yes, they would have it done again in a future pregnancy. 5% said no, and that's fine because this is a choice that we're offering to women. We then wanted to assess if people understood what it might mean if they had a positive result. And this is a really important thing as well. And 82% said, yes, I understand what it means if I was GBS positive. But I think it's really important that we take note of the 17% who say either no or they don't know, which to my mind really means the same thing. And this might be a group that we need to be able to provide more information to. Now, obviously, this was just done at the time of screening, so we're not talking to these women after they've had a positive result and then had the additional information which Grace referred to. But I think there's a potential an area we need to look at. We then asked, do you think all women should be offered screening for group B strep? And encouragingly, 86% said yes. So in conclusion, I think given the limitations of this study with relatively small numbers, the group B strep screening is considered to be acceptable, fairly easy test to do, maybe a little bit uncomfortable and embarrassing. The vast majority would have it again and feel that it is something that should be offered to all pregnant women. From a practical point of view, people appreciate the choice as to whether or not they should do the test themselves or have a midwife do it, and most felt that they would understand what a positive result would mean. So in terms of next step, I think as a trust, we've identified some areas of good practice, maybe some areas that we could improve on a little bit. And I think what would be really interesting is to do a post-delivery evaluation from 2 points of view. Firstly, we want to make sure that we're getting the results out to this woman, that they are all receiving the results as they should be. And also to speak to women who potentially have had their intrapartum course altered by having the group B strep screening. So for those who have a negative result, that's fine, they just go on their way. Those who have had a positive result, they may have had antibiotics. In the case of home birth, that may or may not have changed where they delivered as well. And it's important that we speak to these women as well and make sure that later on in the process that we're looking after them as well. And we really want to use forums like this to disseminate our experience of group B strep screening more widely, give you ideas of what's worked well for us and to share the information. In terms of acknowledgements, so Dr. Rao has already been mentioned several times as a consultant in charge. Site coordinators, including Grace, were incredibly helpful. And obviously great thanks go to all the volunteers at the antenatal clinics, all the staff, the interpreters, but most importantly the women who took part as well. So I'll stop there.